Well, hello there, and welcome to the shop at Blue Star Industrial Arts. I'm Greg. Pleased to be with you this Memorial Day weekend. It's a rainy Memorial Day here at the Jersey Shore, so I figured I'd do a quick video on something that I've had a lot of inquiries about. People seem to like a lot, and this is a tea light or a votive size candle holder. You can put a tea light in there, or you can put a larger size votive candle in here. And this is turned with a hollow helix, or a they call pierced turning. And I've cut these helixes in after I turn this. This one is made out of ambrosia maple. This is kind of a plain Jane kind of thing, but it adds some interesting patterns to it. But the lights are down, so you can see that how these candles look pretty cool because you can see the light through the sidewalls as well as just from the top. So I made this as a whim. I was just doing some experimentation, and a lot of people liked it, and they said, hey, why don't you do a video so we can make this. And it's not that difficult to make. Turning wise, it's very easy. And as far as getting these helixes in, there's a little secret to that, and I could show you how to do that, so you just stay tuned. Alright, what I like to do when I make something like this is I like to keep them all fairly uniform, so I could turn out a bunch of them at different stages, and like I could turn 5 and then put the helixes in 5 and finish 5 and so forth. So I came up with an optimum, what I feel is an optimum size. The overall diameter at its largest point is 3 inches 400. I talk like a machinist, so I'm not going to do fractions and stuff here, but 3 inches 400, it's a little under 3.5 inches. I make the opening 2 inches 400. So we have a sidewall or a difference in diameter of a 1/2 inch from here to here. Okay, 3 inches tall is a good size. I make my base 2 inches 700, and just a little over a 1/2 inch up at 600. I just keep that flat, and then I start my taper up. Alright, so if we use these dimensions that we have here, and I want to just leave it up there so you have time to copy it. This is 3 inches 400. I don't quite have that there, see? That's the top. So let's say stay there, you fucker. Alright, so again, this widest part here is 3 inches 400 or 3.5 inches. My opening in my here is 2 inches 400, and the base diameter is 2 inches 700, and this height is about 600, and then I have 1 inches 200 or 1 1/4 inches from here to this wide point here. And then these helixes are all about 1/4 inch wide here. So that'd be that, and 3 inches high. And what we're going to make this out of is I got this nice black walnut. I went to Silver Springs Farm up in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and this guy has a nice farm, and he's got a whole bunch of trees there, and he had so many trees that were in need of cutting down. He bought himself a sawmill, and he provides me with some nice wood. I bought these black walnut blocks he just cut into 4x4 blocks, and the 4x4 block is perfect for this project. And use whatever you have. I'm going to make a bunch of these, and I'm going to dye some and everything else, but so I'm going to just show you how I put this one together. And most important, what most people want to know is, because anybody could turn wood, I guess, they want to know, how did I get the helix in there and get them so uniform, and I'm going to show you that. So that will be coming up we'll get set up on the old lathe and get back to you. Okay, so you can see the grain is running this way, so this is a spindle oriented turning. The block was quite square, so it was just a matter of finding centers. I turn between centers as much as possible. That gives you your best hole when you're turning wood, in my opinion. Other people share that opinion. Okay, what I've done thus far is I squared up this face, and then I made some lines here. You probably can't see them on the camera. I'm going to make them a little darker for you. Now, these lines correspond to the drawing here. Okay? Alright, so we have our basic shape. Now this here will just turn into a tenon that will accept, my chuck will hold. Okay, I got my chuck mounted now, and I chucked the piece into that little tenon I made. One of the things you want to make sure of before you do this at this point is that you have no more tooling on your profile. I sanded this to 120, and everything looks good, so I know there's no more cutting except for the amount of parting off when I'm done. So what I'm going to do now is start the hollowing portion of this. So the first phase of this is I have, I think that's a 1-inch Forstner bit, and there's a little indent on the bit, and that's just how deep I'm going to go, so I'm going to use that for my depth gauge. So we're going to start going in with this guy just to get the hollow started. Okay folks, I started hollowing here. I forgot to turn the damn camera on, but anyway, I'm using my square carbide. This is a 3/8 shank. I get these from Harrison Specialties. They make 1/2 inch too for you guys who turn bigger stuff. But this is great for, it's just like a boring bar on a metal lathe. You go straight in. Look at that cut, right? Alright, and that's a beautiful ribbon right there. So we're looking for a 3/8 thickness along this profile here. So we rough it out with this, and then we come back and we finish it with our round version of this. I love these carbide tools, I really do. And then we'll be able to get our entire profile. And so after we're all roughed out, we're all finished hollowed, then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what you all want to see, and that's getting the Helix in on this thing. So we'll get back to you soon. Okay, now we're getting to the important part of this here video. So pardon the handheld camera, but I want you people to get this. This has 12 helixes, heli, slots, whatever you want to call them, in them. The important thing now is we got to do the helixes, right? Now what you see here on me lathe is these graduated marks, and then there's a little pin here, and they lock into place. Alright, and we have 240-degree graduations here, alright, for our full circle. So if we're making 12 helixes, that means we have to index this bad boy every 2 times. So it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you go in the same direction, and as long as you go 2 spaces for a total of 12 helix and 24 240 divided by 12, or 24 positions divided by 12 would be every other one. Now, something to look at here, and this comes into planning. You can see these couple of wormholes in here, right? There are wormholes in this piece. Just, you never know when you're working with wood what you're going to get. They just appear. They might have been powder post beetles. Powder post beetles are big on black walnut. Probably one of the reasons why the guy cut the tree down. Anyway, you probably can't see it, but these holes actually go through the piece. Make very small holes. So I want to try, at least try, to get these in the helixes to be cut away. So in order to do that, I'm going to start about here. And if you notice, I have my tool rest set to a height. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to use my tool rest as a guide. I'm going to make my 600 mark right here. That's going to be my base. So I'm going to make a mark there, and then I'm going to make a mark on this end. I'm going to index this guy 2 turns, and I'm going to use the same steady rest and make a mark there and make a mark there, and so on until I have marks around the whole piece. Okay, then I'm going to show you how we connect them. Okay, now you can see I use my center punch. I marked my lines, and I have a series of 12 punch marks, equally spaced along the circumference of this piece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a helix connecting this piece, this one with this one, and this one with this one, and this one with this one. We're gonna skip from top to bottom. We're not going to make them straight across. We're going to go on an angle. Okay, so we've laid this out. We punched our holes, and we're taking a circle. This is a 4-inch circle, so it's a 2-inch radius, right? Radius half the circle. And what we're doing here, this is a piece of cardboard that kind of fits over the form. You could use that rubber. That drafting table cover is a great thing for carved wood because it bends and you keep it forever. We're connecting one center punch to the one to the left of it. In other words, we're not going straight across like that. We're going to the one just down from it. And that gives us our helix angle. Now if you want to make the helix the other way, well then you just do your lines the other way. As a matter of fact, if you did your line this way, right, you could probably carve a double helix in there. And that would be really cool. But we're going to keep this thing simple. Okay, and we're just going to make that. But just to give you an idea of the possibilities here, okay? Then what I generally do is, because as much as I like carving and power carving and everything else, I like to cheat. So what I typically do to cheat is I take my center punch again and I go on these lines, and about 1/4 of an inch apart, another little mark, like so. And the reason why I do that is because now I'm going to take a drill, and I'm going to drill in here and we'll have a series of holes here. Then when we carve this out with our Dremel or our MIDI carver or whatever kind of power tool, if you want, I guess you could use a regular carving chisel, but you know what? That's a lot of tedious work because your gouges are great cutting across the grain. When you have to turn and start going with the grain, they tend to tear. I use a power carver, and I will take, after I put my holes in this, I'll take my Dremel and I'll set my tool rest so I have a nice steady rest. I'll unlock my spindle and I will kind of go like this with my Dremel or my master carver, whatever power tool you happen to use, and you start gradually. This is not a rush thing. You're not going to jam it in there. It's not like an end mill, okay? If we had a CNC lathe with live tooling, yeah, that would be a piece of cake, but that's not how this is. We're doing this the old-fashioned way. So anyway, so that's the concept, and I hope you guys get this. So I'm going to get this thing drilled out and start carving it, and then you'll see that step. Okay, so I go back to my Dremel. I use one of these tapered stump cutters that are a 1/4 inch at the big base. And the thing here is to take your time. As you can see, you know, you just take your time. Don't try to rush it, because if you rush it, you'll screw this up. These will dig in, and then you go across your whole piece, or you'll make the gouge real big, or whatever. Always wear your dust mask, because these types of tools send very, very fine dust out in all directions. So, put your mask on, just to show you technique. I hold it like a pencil. I use my tool rest to steady my hand. And I follow my line. And it's good to leave this loose so you can turn it as the helix changes. Like a dentist drilling a cavity. Gotta be careful. Take your time. Anyway, that's how it's done. When your stump cutter starts to get dull, like this one is doing. So I've done about 5 of these already. 5 pieces, not 5 slots. Change it, you know? Don't mess around with these things. If you have a carbide one, fine. This isn't carbide, this is high-speed steel. And a packet of 5 of them is only like about $6 from the great People's Republic of China. So anyway, you go through this and you get all your helixes roughed out. What I mean by roughed out is then we're going to put on a nice, shiny, sharp tool, and we're going to detail, break edge, you know, we're going to go around this whole thing. So until that time, we'll get to you. So that's how it's done. Take your time. So anyway, next step. Okay, and here we go. There are our helix cut into it. So the only thing that remains is sanding. Now, I go over these with the Dremel disc on the edges to kind of put a little chamfer on them. Emery board is nice to get in here. We sand these up, and then we sand the outside again, and probably a little bit on the inside as well. and then we'll redo the sanding sealer. Then we'll part it off, finish the bottom, and that's simply a matter of turning it around and putting the internal jaws into here lightly. You know, there's not a whole bunch supporting this here, so you don't want to really crank it. All we want to do is be able to flatten and dish this edge here. So, and then we'll show you the finished product. But that's that. So, yeah. Okay. There you are. Another Helix candle done. Sanding sealer. The only thing that's left is a few coats of lacquer. So there you have how one looks made out of one wood, how one looks made out of another wood, and you could go on and on. You could pick and choose your wood. I cut this one a little bit short because it was a rotten spot on the base. So I had to take maybe not even 1/4 of an inch more. Normally I'd leave the base a little thicker, but hey, what are you going to do? It's wood, you know? So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy making this. If you have any questions, give me a shout, and we'll see you next time.